This is the Tesla Model 3 Highland. It's created massive global buzz over the last few weeks, yet there are so many features that still aren't being talked about. Let's take a look at a compilation.
On the steering wheel, Tesla has removed the horn button in favor of a normal horn and added a camera button. I'm really glad to see this change, and it means that bringing up your cameras at any time, which should include the front camera, is even easier. You can simply press this button without moving your eyes much and without moving your hands off the wheel.
Finally, they've added these little indicator lights right in the top speaker column. A lot of cars usually put them on the mirror, so I guess Tesla didn't do that, but there is technically now a light that will illuminate when there's a car in your blind spot so that you don't signal and try to make the lane change. But even on top of that, when you do signal, it shows the repeater camera, so it should be very, very hard for you to merge into somebody now that there's an indicator light and the visualization showing a red car on the screen, plus the camera feed that pops up. You're like, if you hit a car at this point, I don't think you should be driving a Tesla.
Tesla has updated this car from 14 to 17 speakers, and one of the newest, most obvious speaker locations is within the crossbeam on the roof of the Model 3. Here's a great photo of this, but you can also see it clearly in Tesla's own promotional photos. That should help deliver an even more impressive sound system with sound coming from above.
As we saw in the other model, they've added here textile, so this helps to dampen the sound. Same here, so you can probably replace this and this on your 2021 Model 3 or earlier version.
According to Tesla's official numbers, the old Model 3 had 649 liters of storage capacity, and the new one has 682 liters. So that's about a 5% improvement that could be coming a bit in the trunk and a bit in the frunk, but we're unsure.
There was also some slight tweaks underneath the hood, which you usually don't talk much about with a Tesla, but yeah, they extended the frunk a little bit, so it seems to have a tad more storage space in the front area, as well as a repositioning of the windshield wiper fluid.
Previously, when taking off the covers, Tesla's Model 3 Aero wheels weren't all that special, but those wheels have changed in a major way. Here are photos of those new 18-inch Aero wheels with covers off. They definitely hold their own in a new special way, and I think it's going to be an extremely popular option to buy these stock wheels and then take the covers off.
One really cool feature that's on this model that actually is not on the S or the X right now is the ability to pair two independent Bluetooth headphones for those back passengers so they can watch whatever content they want to watch on that screen and not disturb anyone driving up front. That's really cool. Only on Highland right now. Not sure if that's going to come to S or X, hopefully, but that's really cool to see. And of course, this rear screen is going to give back passengers full control over the HVAC system for climate control. And also, I believe we'll let them adjust some ambient RGB lighting on that screen as well.
But a bigger one that more people might actually be confused with if you're used to driving around traditional Model Ys and 3s is the new location for the Tesla key card. So if you don't have phone key set up, you know, like you're letting someone borrow the car or it's a rental or something, of course Teslas have these little RFID cards that you tap on the side column of the car to open it up. Well, before you would tap that key card right behind the cup holders. With Project Highland though, they've moved the sensor to where it detects that key card to now be right where you rest your phone charger. And I love this change personally. Like, most people are used to pulling out their phone and putting it on that wireless charger anyway. So for whatever reason you have to fall back to using the key card, it makes way more sense in my opinion to just leave that key card on the wireless charger. I had personally done that in the past myself because leaving it behind the cup holders feels dangerous, like it's gonna slide around and stuff. So just leaving it right on that little Qi charger is a brilliant move. Very thankful they changed that, but I didn't see that many people talking about it because no one's actually taken delivery of a refreshed Model 3 yet.
As for the RGB lights in the Model 3, some were speculating that these would be matched to the paint color of the car. In Tesla's demos, they did have it set up this way, but it's entirely customizable with a full color wheel as pictured here. On screen, you can dial in the exact accent light color that you want. That's exciting, and there appears to be options for off, on, or auto.
Below that is a wireless charging pad, which to me looks a bit larger than the previous models. I can't confirm this, but it looks a little bit larger and should be able to maybe accommodate some larger smartphones down there for wireless charging.
Due to the nature of this system though, Tesla has to include a backup in case the screen were to go blank on this car. That's why Tesla includes backup shifter buttons at the base of the wireless charger for the Model S. But for the Model 3, it looks like they're putting these even more out of the way for a real emergency scenario. This photo shows where they will be, and it will actually be located on the headliner right next to your buttons for flashers. Essentially, they're putting all of the emergency controls in one place, since you really should never need to use these shifter buttons. If the screen fails though, just look where your flashers are. I assume these will only be illuminated when initiated with a tap on them, or when the car recognizes the need for them.
The hazard light button, that is now a capacitive button. It's no longer a physical click, but I believe in the United States that is still a required physical button. It can't be capacitive, so when they bring the refresh Model 3 to the United States, inevitably, probably next year, that will probably change to a physical button.
We also may see some slight downgrades to that rear-wheel drive model. Again, noted by Zach here on X, is a difference in materials on the door between the long-range version and the rear-wheel drive version.
As for the door handles, these are clearly taken from the Model S and appear to take the touch buttons to release the door. This would be a change away from the physical buttons here, but upon further inspection, it looks like Tesla has taken this design and made it a normal switch. A clip from the Automoto video shows them opening the door from the inside, and it looks like this switch moves with your press. I personally prefer this because the Model S handles with those touch buttons just wouldn't recognize my finger sometimes.
In the existing, old-fashioned Model 3 design, there is no manual door release for the backseat passengers. This is not the case with the Model Y, which is what everybody keeps getting confused about. They keep telling me, Drew, no, I'm pretty sure the Model 3 has a manual door release, but then they don't tell me where it is, or they think they know where it is, but they're actually referring to the manual door release for the Model Y. This was actually addressed with the Project Highland refresh. It is within the backseat passengers' door pockets. There's a little cover that you can pull up and manually release the door. Of course, this is in the event that the 12-volt battery in the car is not working, so the typical door buttons are not opening. In some freak emergency, I guess you now have a physical way to open up the door. I don't know if it's that much better, though, than not having one, because honestly, how many people are gonna know that manual door release is there, especially if they're in the back seat, they're passengers. Do you really want to explain that to them every single time they get in the car? I don't know, but I guess if you wanted there to be a manual door release for the rear doors, there is now an option to do that with the refresh.
The back of the new Highland Model 3 is also heavily redesigned with new lights, where turn signals are now in the uppermost corners. And most notably here is that Tesla's actually ditched the badge, the Tesla emblem on the back of the vehicle, to now spell out Tesla with the TESLA in lettering on the back.
As for safety, Fully Charged detailed the fact that Tesla has improved side impact protection specifically for rear passengers in this car. But overall, it is improving on an already incredibly safe vehicle.
But one change that I appreciate immensely that the Model 3 was long overdue to get was the inclusion of magnets. Now, the armrest is just magnetically sticking to the center console now instead of having a plastic latch, which we all know is going to break eventually. And not only that, they also brought magnets to the glove box. So in the old-fashioned Model 3, there's like a physical latch that clicks it into place, whereas on the Highland refresh, it actually just magnetically holds itself to the dashboard, and I guess it sits flush enough that you can't pry it open. They make it pretty difficult to do that, but somehow, just by going through the display, you can hit the glove box button and it manually releases that magnet somehow, which is kind of cool.
So pricing and availability is also very unknown variable right now. Again, pricing is hard to nail down, but from what we've seen, looks like Model 3 Highland is about 12% more expensive in China. Australia, it's about 7.8% more expensive, 7.8% more expensive, I should say. Germany, 2.4% more expensive. France, 2.4% more expensive. So a little bit more expensive than the Model 3 we've got right now, but not too bad. And then those very first deliveries of Highland will be available in certain parts of the world starting in October.
Some changes with the trunk. So not only on the tech specs do they say that the trunk space has actually been increased by a little bit, but now for the powered trunk on the refresh Model 3, there's actually 2 actuators, one for each arm on the trunk, which is kind of an interesting choice for me because I remember when they first added the powered trunk to the Model 3, and still in the US it's like this. They have just one actuator on the left side of the car, and that lifts the whole thing up and closes it. And initially there were a few people that got early Model 3s with the powered trunk, and over time it would get really misaligned, and that was becoming a huge service issue. So I was worried that was going to happen with my Model 3, and I've been using that powered trunk a lot, and it still hasn't gotten misaligned. It's still fine. So as far as I'm aware, they've figured out a way to just have one motor that can reliably open and close it. But with Highland, for some reason, they decided it needs 2. It should have an actuator on each side just to make sure that it doesn't get misaligned and that it's, I guess, a smoother, more consistent experience. Who knows? Maybe this makes the trunk more like strong.
Now, Tesla, from what I've heard, their official stance is that the motors and batteries haven't changed, though there is some speculation that Tesla is using LFP batteries in all models of these vehicles. This is an unsubstantiated rumor as of right now. Just thought I would present it because it is something that people are talking about, but not exactly sure if that is here on this new Model 3 or not.
But one downside I will admit of this interior, most of the things they've done are pretty great, but not only did they remove the gear stocks, which is probably the most controversial decision, but they've also removed the middle seat heater for the backseat passengers. I'm guessing Tesla just figured this was the least common activated sensor in all of those seats.
One of the other big questions sort of surrounding this car right now is what hardware system it has, because that's unclear. There is the assumption that this would be a hardware 4 vehicle since the S, the X, the 3, or now the 3, and the Y all have hardware 4, though some rumors say this is going to be a hardware 3.5 car. It is very unclear what hardware version this has. We don't know right now.